In order to better understand the Roman family in our textbook, I was going to make a model of their house as shown on page 33 of our textbook. You can tell a lot about people based on their house. If someone has a greenhouse, they probably like to garden. If someone has a home theater, they probably like to watch movies. If someone has a basement full of machetes, it's probably time to start running. The ancient Romans were no different. We can learn a lot about their lifestyle by looking at their house. When you look at the floor plan in our textbooks, you'll notice many rooms. We have an ostium, an atrium, an impluvium, a peristilum, a tablinum, a triclinium, some alae, an exedra, a cubiculum, 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 a cubiculum. Well, they're all just cubicula. The whole house is just a giant bedroom, really. It was at this point I emailed Dr. Elizabeth Thill, PhD in classical archaeology, asking for her help on the matter. Her response was thus: Cubiculum doesn't really translate as bedroom. It more accurately translates to room I could be or happen to be using a bed in. And there I was, trapped in the abyss of my own lack of understanding, swimming in the inability to comprehend the meaning of such a concept. Time slowed and stretched before me as I turned this over in my mind, puzzled by how such an oxymoronic thing could exist in our world, until finally, on the next line of that same email, I understood. When you go online to look at a fancy house, you get to see all the lovely furniture, and you can figure out how the owners used to use a room. But if you were fortunate enough to have a few spare million lying around and were to buy this house, the house you would get would be completely empty. You would be free to do whatever you wanted with this house. Sure, the kitchen would probably have to stay the kitchen, but what used to be a home office could now be a game room. A room is really just that. 4 walls and a floor held together under a roof. The fact that we feel the need to designate a particular function to them is, quite frankly, a little absurd. And so, I decided to move into the House of the Tragic Poet, which, technically, is still the house from our textbook. It's just the one on page -1. Or, the cover. I don't quite agree with the previous owner's choice to destroy the house in a volcanic eruption, but that just means there's plenty of natural light, and it's nothing a little paint can't fix. The first thing you'll notice about my new house is the entirely intentional, 100% not accidental lack of a front door. This actually gives a nice insight into Roman culture. Your house is a reflection of your status in ancient Rome, and not a personal dwelling. Your house exists purely to impress others. Why else would you need a house? For a cubiculum? What a joke! In fact, this guy I know, Louis, when he was building his house, his architect was trying to make the house super private, so Louis told him, "No, you should apply your skills to arranging my house so that whatever I do should be visible to everybody." He had a very classic ancient Roman mindset. This brings us back to the doors. Because your house is pretty much for everyone else, your doors must always be open, except for when you're in mourning. Poor Louis, though. It's actually how his assassin got in at 91. I would close my door for him, but the door burned away from, volcano. One of my favorite things about the new house is the absolutely iconic 4th style artwork depicting scenes from the Iliad. I had some of the less destroyed paintings relocated to the front of the house just to show off. After all, when in Rome. The one in the way back there is the nuptials of Zeus and Hera on Mount Ida. We also have Sacrifice of Iphigenia and the accidentally sort of titular Delivery of Admetus of the Oracle. When this house was first put back on the market, someone thought this was a tragic poet reciting lines. Just good old crazy Uncle Admetus saying that the gods were going to kill him if no one takes his place. If you happen to notice the 2 rooms with what looks like an insane amount of beds preparing to start a satanic ritual, you've actually stumbled upon something of another sinful sort. I don't know about you, but as I'm writing this script, I'm laying in bed and eating because no respectable college student actually eats at a table. What are we? Adults? And the ancient Romans understood this. Triclinium pretty literally translates to 3 couches, but its function is more like a dining room. You get to lay around in your toga pajamas eating dinner, and when you're stuffed and sleepy, you can just sleep right then and there because every room is a cubiculum. It's pretty much the best thing since before sliced bread. Oh, and if you're wondering what this strange empty cutout in the atrium is, nobody knows, but it's been named an alley anyway. In fact, if you Google alley Roman house, the first link is a whole webpage 4 sentences long saying exactly that. The internet puts the whole of human knowledge at our fingertips, but that's all the human race knows about alley, I guess. Over here we have the kitchen. It's pretty much just a stove, so don't get too excited. Honestly, I'm not even convinced this is a kitchen. Ancient Rome was notorious for burning down, and I'm not just talking about the lava. In 64, 70% of Rome burned down in less than a week. As a result, the Romans had a kind of aversion to cooking indoors. But that's definitely a stove, right? Unless it's a tiny dirt mouse house. Then again, this is my house now, so it's a mouse house because I said so. The cylindrical thing next to the impluvium is a well, which is super redundant. There's really nothing interesting here. I just spent like a whole week trying to figure out what in the world that could possibly be, and just a well was a huge letdown, so I figured I'd share my disappointment with you. This fun little desk here is in the tablinum, which is not only my favorite Latin word to say, but also a kind of office. The tablinum sits smack dab in the middle of the house so the master could see everything from here. We all love a good panopticon, but that's a dystopian penal observatory architecture lesson for another day. At the front of the house, we have a taberna. It's a shop, and this one sells pot and weed. Pots and weeds. Pots and flowers. Ceramic goods and floral arrangements. I'm so sorry. Finally, we have the peristylum. Unfortunately, I have a bit of a black thumb when it comes to gardening, so all these plants are fake, but the lularium is entirely real. The lularium is a shrine where you can go pray to the household gods. You know, maybe the last family shouldn't have picked the volcano gods as their household gods, but that's it. I hope you learned something. Thank you so much for visiting my new home. If you'll excuse me, I think I smell smoke.